So, hello everyone, and thanks for the short intro. I think it's the right time to begin on. All right. So, yeah, hi, my name is Tobias. I'm from Germany. I'm a PhD student at Hasso-Plattner Institute, and we're building a MOOC platform that I will introduce to you now. So, we started with our MOOC platform in 2012. We built it for our institute to host courses for our students, but also everyone else out there. We offer free courses, which are hosted by our professors and staff about digital technologies, transformation, and innovation. Our platform can be accessed via web, but also with our native mobile applications so that everybody can learn anywhere and at any time. We also collaborate with partner organizations which are interested to also deploy this MOOC platform under their own label to offer content on their own. One of these partners and one of our main partners is SAP. They are our partner since 2013, and they use our platform under the label of OpenSAP to offer free trainings for professionals and customers. Next to the MOOCs, which they call enterprise MOOCs, they also offer podcasts and microlearning since this year. A couple of numbers: they have over 4.3 million course enrollments up to date. They have more than 200 different courses, excluding different course iterations, users from more than 200 countries, and more than 1 million unique learners registered on the platform. So, as I said, they have a couple of terms defined, like corporate MOOCs and enterprise MOOCs. They have corporate MOOCs, which are limited to their employees. This is in-house content, which is custom built for them. But the main format is enterprise MOOCs, where they offer free relevant corporate knowledge for stakeholders, partners, clients, and so on. So they are freely available for everyone. The main topics they cover are technology, software, business design, or corporate social responsibility. As typical for MOOCs, they have a fixed start and end date. They have a certain registration period in several weeks of advance of the course, usually around 4 weeks. So everybody can read the details of the course and decide if they want to enroll or not. They release new content every week, and usually each week has a time effort of 4 to 6 hours for a learner. When a course has ended, it will switch to self-paced mode, so everything stays archived. The content remains available, but graded assignments are not accessible anymore, and therefore no graded certificate is available in this phase anymore. The forum is closed, which means you cannot post anymore to the forum, but you can read all the posts and all the threads. It is possible since a couple of years to reactivate the course, which means for 8 weeks you are able to submit the graded quizzes and therefore also gain a graded certificate, but for this mode, a certain fee is required. Let's take a look how these courses look on the platform. So each week is separated into different smaller video lectures. After each video lecture, there's a short self-test to test knowledge that you gained in the previous video lecture. Next to these self-tests, which are usually based on multiple choice questions, we also have some more complex assessments on the platform, like, for example, hands-on exercises, like auto-graded programming exercises that you can auto-grade in a browser. But we also offer peer assessments or team peer assessments, where you can submit more complex submissions, and then your submission is graded by your peers. In each course, there's a discussion forum where you can discuss the topics with the teaching team, but also with your peers. We also have Collab Spaces that can be created either by the teaching team or by the students itself. They are closed or invite only, and there you can form interest groups or teams to discuss with them in a separate forum, to collaborate with them, for example, in shared docs. You can video chat or also share files and so on. Usually at the end of each week, there's a graded assignment. So these are graded points which are required to get a graded certificate at the end. And also for courses which run for 2 or 4 weeks, there's a final exam at the end of the course. Courses usually offer two kinds of certificates. The first one is a confirmation of participation. So this is gained when a user accessed at least 50% of the overall learning content. We also offer a record of achievement. This is a graded certificate that's gained if the user gained at least 50% of the overall points available in the graded exercises, like the weekly homeworks or the final exam. So self-paced MOOCs. Yeah, as you all know, MOOCs are around for almost a decade. So the catalog of archived or self-paced courses continuously grows. For example, on OpenSAP, there are more than 180 self-paced courses. Our main target group are professionals, and these are interested usually in the content itself, even after the course has ended, since this content can be relevant to their job performance. This also means that they are not necessarily interested in receiving a certificate. They often have tight business schedules and workloads, which sometimes conflicts also with the weekly schedule of the MOOC. And therefore, the consumption of content in self-paced mode becomes even more relevant. On OpenSAP, for example, 30% of new enrollments are done in these self-paced phases of a MOOC. So, you all know the typical disadvantages of MOOCs, which are around for a couple of years. Participants do not show up during the course, and dropouts resulting in low completion rates. But this research is usually limited to the runtime of the MOOC and not the phase when the MOOC is archived and in self-paced mode. Due to the lack of existing research in the self-paced phase, we came up with the following research question, which is done in the study. How does the learning behavior differ between students in MOOCs who participate during the course and afterward in self-paced mode? So, our study design. We observed and analyzed the learning behavior of students, which highly depends on the goal and intentions when you enroll for a course. To reduce this intention behavior bias, we assign students based on the learning outcome, which means they achieve certificates to different cohorts. We did this since this is the only indication about their motivation for enrollment. So here we had the assumption that students who achieved the same certificate had a similar motivation to work on the course content. But this includes the limitation that we exclude students who had similar initial motivation, but then did not achieve the learning objective at the end. However, this was the data available at the platform that we had to work with. So we selected 6 courses for our analysis. They targeted technical and business professionals. They were all in English and held in 2017 or 18, which means we had self-paced data available for 2 to 3 years for all of these courses. They were free of charge during their runtime. Both certificates were available, and all material were available since they became archived. Of course, the record of achievement, the graded certificate, was available for reactivation with a fee, so that even self-paced students were able to achieve this if they wanted to. We had two 2 weeks courses, two 4 weeks courses, and 2 6 weeks courses in our analysis. The 2 weeks courses were graded only with a single final exam. The 4 weeks courses and the 6 week courses were graded with weekly assignments, so either 4 or 6, and then a final exam at the end, additionally. As I said, 6 courses. The titles were SAP Cloud Platform Essentials, Getting Started with Data Science, Find Your Path to SAP S/4HANA, Introduction to SAP HANA Administration, SAP Solution Manager for SAP HANA, and Understanding SAP Fiori Launchpad. So as you can see, all of these courses are really have topics around the SAP ecosystem. Here in the table, you can see the total enrollment numbers from these courses that we were able to work with. After the courses ended, we had over 120,000 enrollments. And for these, at the end of the self-paced phase, when we started our analysis, we had more than 200,000 enrollments available. However, not all of these enrollments show up during the course. This is where we usually work with so-called shows. So these are users which at least showed up once in the course. Here we had about 70,000 shows at the end, and at the moment of the analysis, we had more than 140,000 enrollments that we conducted our research on. So these students were assigned to different cohorts. First, we split them into 2 mutually exclusive categories. First, students who received the confirmation of participation, so the ungraded certificate, and students who received a record of achievement, the graded certificate. For both, we assigned the student into two cohorts. First, the students who achieved the certificate during the course. These are called guided students, and students who achieved the certificate after the course. These are called self-paced students. Here in the table, you can see the different cohorts for each of the courses. As you can see, we usually have around 1,000 up to 2,000 students per cohort. But for the 2B group, the numbers are much smaller because these were the students who had to pay for the graded certificate after the course has ended. So, of course, this number is much smaller. Yeah, for each of the students, we analyzed different learning behavior metrics. We assessed 8 of them. First, the percentage of unique visited learning items. Second, the average session duration in seconds. Then the total session duration in seconds. The quiz performance in percent. Here only the self-test performance for students with the CLP, the confirmation of participation. And for the students with record of achievement, the total quiz performance. The percentage of unique videos played, the percentage of unique video downloads, the percentage of unique video slides downloaded for a video, and at last, the passive forum activity, so visits and subscriptions per day based on the user's first and last activity in the course. So this way, we normalized all these metrics per course, and we could compare them between the courses for each of the students. For our analysis, we did a man-written AU test to calculate statistically significant differences. We also measured the effect sizes with coherence D, and we used the descriptive statistics also to assess practical relevance of the result at the end. As I said, we compared these two groups, guided versus self-paced students with the COP, and guided versus self-paced students with a record of achievement. This resulted in 2 groups multiplied by 8 metrics for all of the 6 courses. So we ended up with 96 assessed p-values and effect sizes. Since this is a lot of numbers, I will not show them all here in the talk, but if you're interested in the details, you can find all of these numbers in the paper, which is part of the conference proceedings. But for now, I will sum up the most important results. So first, I will show you the results of the guided versus self-paced students with the confirmation of participation for each of the metrics. For the visited item, we found highly statistically significant difference in 4 courses with small effect sizes in 2 courses. However, the mean values show no practical relevance for us, which contradicts our initial premise of fewer learning item discovery from self-paced learners. The overall item discovery confirms selective consumption, either selective or linear. The average and total session durations showed highly statistically significant differences in almost all courses with small to large effect sizes. So the self-paced students have longer sessions, but shorter total learning time. The self-paced students also learned more time efficient and with fewer interruptions. Since all content is already available in self-paced mode, they had they didn't need to wait for new content released on a weekly basis, which can be one of the reasons for this behavior. Therefore, they maybe make fewer and therefore more extended learning sessions. For the self-test quiz performance, we had significant differences in all courses with small effect sizes in 4 of them. Guided learners performed slightly better than self-paced learners. However, we see no practical relevance here. Our assumption is that learners are more engaged by focusing on the weekly content available during the runtime rather than rushing through the content and picking the content in self-paced mode and thus performing better in quizzes. For the played videos, downloaded slides, and passive forum activity, we found a lot of statistical significance and effect sizes. However, when we looked at the mean values and so on, we haven't seen any clear practical relevances in the data. One explanation can be that these large sample sizes that we had lead quickly to significant results when we do such statistical tests. So let's take a look at the results for guided versus self-paced learners who gained a record of achievement, the graded certificate in this case. For the visited items metric, we found a significant difference in 3 courses with small effect sizes in 2 of them. On average, our self-paced learners visited more items here. However, we haven't seen any practical relevance in the data here. Our assumption is that paying users are more engaged with the content compared to participants which didn't pay at all during the free runtime of the course. About the average, for the average session durations, we found highly statistical differences in all courses with high effect sizes. So self-paced students have much higher average session durations in this case. This confirms our results from the COP cohorts and lead also to the same interpretation, and we think this has a practical relevance. For the total session duration, only highly statistical differences were found in 2 courses with small effect sizes. Self-paced students stay much longer on the platform in total. We think this has a practical relevance, but contradicts the findings from the COP comparison, where the total session duration of self-paced learners decreased, actually. So this can be attributed to the perceived higher value of the for-free record of achievement, which leads to an increase in learning time, maybe. About the quiz performance, we found significant differences in 3 courses and small effect sizes in 2 courses. However, no practical relevance here again. Self-paced students perform slightly better in quizzes on courage. For the last metrics, played videos, 2 courses showed significant differences, but we consider 5 of the courses as practical relevant. Self-paced students watched more video lectures here. For the downloaded videos, statistically significant differences were found in 3 courses. Self-paced learners downloaded notably more videos. The same is for the slides. They also downloaded way more slides here. And learners who reactivated courses for a fee showed higher rates of engagement in all aspects of the content provided in general. About the passive forum activity, 2 courses showed significant differences. Here, guided students passively use the forum more often, interestingly. So these were a lot of insights and a lot of results, but I summed up all of this in my conclusion. Self-paced learners with the COP, confirmation of participation, have longer sessions on average compared to guided learners with the COP, but a shorter total learning time. This indicates that they learned more time efficient and with fewer interruptions. Self-paced learners with record of achievement tend to be more engaged in general regarding the total and average session duration and perform slightly better quizzes, played and downloaded more videos and also slides. They have a higher engagement, and this is probably related to the fee charged for reactivating the record of achievement. The only exception here is the passive forum activity, which is higher for guided students. Nevertheless, we have a lot of statistical insights here, but the practical impact needs to be further studied in another study. We think we need more qualitative data here, for example, by interviewing students and so on. Also, we need to consider other aspects, which can be side effects, like the instructional design of the courses, the structure of the content, and the domain of the content. The goal here, or our overall goal, is to better understand our users' needs to improve the learning platform of OpenSAP. So that's it. Thank you very much. And I guess it's time for questions.
And we do have time with 10 minutes now for Q&A. So if you have questions that you want to put into the chat, please go ahead and do so. And while waiting for other questions to come, so you talked at the end about possible future directions, and it sounds like this is a nice base to start from, and there are a lot of directions you may want to take it. Can you talk a little bit about are there other things that you're already working on or already kind of in the works to take the next step after this work?
Yeah. So as I said, I mean, our initial idea was that we have all of these courses and this big course catalog now lying around. So there's a big dump of knowledge around for our learners. We have the option to offer a graded certificate for them now, but actually, do they really learn differently than learners which learn during the course phase when it's active? So that was our initial thought. We have some first trends in the data. However, we need to confirm that. So as I said, we need more interviews. We need to we need more qualitative data. So this is planned for the future to maybe adjust the way learners access courses, to maybe recommend different learning paths during this, to maybe offer learning objectives based on learners' interests. if they are not interested in the whole course, for example, but only on certain parts of the course because they're interested into specific topics, for example.
Right. Okay, so are there, when you look at, you mentioned instructional design as one key area, are there things that, as you went through this process, you thought, here's something we want to try differently from an instructional perspective, and when we have an opportunity to do a redesign course and then compare that to a course that exists, is that something that's kind of on the table at this point?
Yeah. I mean, that is the overall goal, to also adjust the instructional design, but we are not on this phase yet. This is the usual process here, that we as researchers try to find these insights. And for example, I'm not a teacher, I'm a researcher, so I try to find these insights and then play them back to the course teams, to the teaching teams, so that they can improve the instructional design in the next iteration of course, for example, on similar courses. But for this study, we're not at this point yet.
Right. No, that makes sense. No, it's a long road, and this is certainly you have to start. You have to start somewhere, and you have to start in this case. If you're going to do a study with what you have, totally understand that. I was kind of just curious to see what if there were some things that emerged, like when you look, were there, I don't know if you can say, but were there any things that struck you in in the data that you have so far and the observations that you've had that say, oh, here's an opportunity to do something different from an instructional perspective, that kind of strikes you as when we have the chance, which is unfortunately a little bit further down the road than we wish, we would want to do this?
Yeah, for example, the forum usage. I mean, we have seen that that during the course runtime, the forum usage was much higher. Even the passive, so only the reads in the forums, only when the user watched the questions or read the questions. So maybe we can think about how we can trigger users to use the forum more often, also during the self-paced phase, or to provide some action points where you can point them, okay, maybe there's relevant knowledge also in the forum available, maybe you can check out this, and so on. So this was one thing which we were surprised about, which we maybe want to tackle in the future with some interventions for self-paced learners.
Yeah, no, because I think you also you made some points about motivation, and it seemed that a lot of the motivational differences, if I understood it correctly, were from external factors. So people who paid for the course were going to get their money's worth a little bit better than people who didn't pay. And it wasn't that people had the opportunity to pay or not pay, right? So these were, it wasn't that people who really, really were interested were willing to pay. It was that you gave this in two different ways. And so, I think that's something that's always true psychologically. There's sort of an extra value in something, perceived value in something that you pay, and you kind of want to, you do want to get money's worth. I know. Were there any other subtleties that we missed about kind of, from the motivational side? Did you see things that maybe were more intrinsic that you could, that you could pick out a little bit as at least things to watch?
Yeah, so this was one of the main limitations I presented for our study design, because we didn't have this data available for the courses, unfortunately. And so we didn't know about the initial motivation of the students. That's why we only compared them by putting them into cohorts based on the achieved certificate in the end, because this kind of gave us a clue about their motivation. But yeah, this is a limitation. And yeah, for future studies, we definitely need to track the initial motivation of the students better. For example, by asking, what is your learning objective? What is your desired outcome of this course?
Yeah, no, and I can completely understand that, you have to deal with, go with the hand you're dealt, and you had so many different courses to look at, and that's a large set of data.
Yeah.
We've talked about qualitative data. I know that wasn't what you were able to do for this. Was there any opportunity to observe, or were you only given the quantitative data for this?
No, the thing is, I mean, this was an observational study, so we didn't have any influence on the course design, on surveys that were conducted on the courses. So the whole study was done after the courses. And based on our found limitations, now we can maybe talk to teaching teams and conduct surveys or conduct interviews in future courses. But yeah, for now, we just identified these limitations, and this will help us to improve the study design.
Great. We have a question from the audience, from David Foster. So good, David. Good to see you. Welcome. The question is as follows: did you look at whether social learning had any effect? Did you have a chance to look at peer evaluation discussion boards and how that might be correlated with completion or learning or anything else?
Yeah. So the problem here is that in self-paced mode, there is no real social learning anymore, and it's not possible anymore because, like team peer assessments, they only work during the course runtime when you have when you really have a bunch of people and courses available at the same time. When in the self-paced mode, you don't know when and how many people access the course. So they are free to come and go whenever they want. And also the forum is closed then because it's not moderated anymore. So you can read all the posts, but you cannot post on your own anymore. So therefore, social learning is unfortunately at the moment not available in our MOOCs. After the course is closed, the course has ended, and therefore it's not comparable, unfortunately.
Okay, all right. Are there any generalizations you feel like you might be able to make from the social learning that you the social data that you did see from the from the runs of the MOOCs before they're closed to be self-paced?
At this point, we didn't look into these kind of data. We only looked into the passive forum activity, so only how many times the user read something. So that's the only thing that I will say is part of the social learning process. But we didn't look into other factors yet.
Okay. No, there's clearly a lot to do and a lot that you've already done, and it's just a large, long process. Great. And moving forward, do you think you'll have access to additional courses, and will you be able to influence the design for for research purposes as things progress?
Yes, definitely. I mean, if we identified certain limitations for our study design, and we can definitely tackle this for future courses, and talk with the teaching teams, and place different questionnaires in the beginning, for example, about the motivation and so on, for example.
Great.
So it's definitely possible.
Okay. One question I think is actually going to be a terminology question. The question is about if you could elaborate on the COP, but I think when you had COP, it ended up being certificate of participation, right? The COP also means communities of practice, and Christina, who's asking the question, is very much her field. So there wasn't really community of practice here. When you used COP, it was always whether they got their certificate for participating, and what you saw there was that they were a little bit motivated by that, at least something more.
Sorry. The COP in this case is an abbreviation for our ungraded certificate, the confirmation and participation. I didn't talk about communities of practice in this case. Right. So sorry for the confusion.
That's okay. No, I just want to clarify. It's always hard. Terminology means lots of things. SMEs in the US generally refers to subject matter experts. SMEs in Canada and I think a lot of Europe is small and medium enterprises, and that one is always causes problems at least once every conference, hopefully not this one. So, all right, well, terrific. Well, thank you once again. I think we're pretty much at the end of our time with you, but hopefully you'll be around throughout the conference over the next few days and participating, and I really appreciate your taking the time to be here and joining us from Germany.
Thank you very much.